Hey, what's up you guys? This is Eric with OzoneTCG. Today we're going to take a look at some national top 8 breakdowns. We're going to take a couple from Europe and one from Central America, kind of see what's going on with the current meta, maybe some predictions with the NAWCQ. Of course, before we get into the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and use our TCG Player affiliate link in the description below in case you want to pick up cards right before the NAWCQ. Let's get on right into it. So first off, we have German Nationals top 8, of course. First, we have 3 Punk decks. 2 of them are Therion versions. One of them is the 60-card Eldritch version, akin to Cyber Gadget, kind of a toolbox variant. People are always going to be playing Eldritch so long as it's legal. Next, we have the 1 Fluandrees, 1 Ignister, 1 Sword Soul Tenyi, 1 Sky Striker featuring Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer and Mystic Mine, and 1 Predaplant Despia. Kind of interesting not to see any just regular branded Despia in German Nationals top 8, but honestly this is pretty diverse. I think this is probably the most accurate way of taking a look at the format you have. I think definitively, just by these results and by some of the later ones, Punk versions are probably the best decks right now. Deer Note just does so much for the deck. While Ignister, it's okay as a pick, probably still top 10 deck of the format. But definitely Sword Soul and Fluandrees are probably right behind Punk. I'd probably say that Sword Soul Tenyi is a little bit better than Fluandrees, but just slightly, because honestly, Fluandrees is still a very scary deck. And then maybe Branded Despia, you could argue, is right above Fluandrees at some point, depending on the event. I think for larger events, Fluandrees tends to do a little bit worse, save for German Nationals. Not sure about their top 32, but overall, I think probably you're looking at Punk versions, whether they be the Adventure Therion or the 60-card Eldritch version. I'm sure is playing the Adventure engine. It's kind of interesting to see here. So we're going to take a look at Central America Nats top 8 next. 3 Punk, 1 Therion, 2 Adventure, so it looks like they weren't playing Therion engine with the Adventures whatsoever. 1 Eldritch. I know it was actually pure Eldritch that won the entire thing, and that is the 1 Eldritch deck we see here. 1 Fluandrees again, 1 Adventure Dragon Link. This is the most recent one, and I think this is the only national top 8 that actually had any kind of Dragon Link representation in top 8, or even top 32 for that matter. Again, 1 Tenyi Sword Soul and 1 Drytron. Interesting to see the Drytron. I know they're just doing the Vanity's Fiend or Vanity's Ruler, normal summon turn 1, cutting on Diviner just to play, because Ben 10 is just such an absurdly broken card. But again, interesting to see. No Branded Despia. I think the deck is very good still. I think it's still a good choice in the meta. I just don't know if it's doing very well because people, again, have become accustomed to it, or it's just too die roll. The all gas version is very, very nice to play. It's fun to play when you get to play, but I think, overall, it's not inconsistent. It just needs to always have that gas. You're not always going to have that gas between, 12 to 16 to 17 rounds of Swiss and top cut. It's just not always going to happen, unfortunately. So it is die roll in that regards. But next up we have the Italian Nationals. Again, not sure how many people are here. With this one, this paints a very different picture, though. We have the 3 Branded Despia. I guess Italians like Branded Despia more, or just happen to be better with the deck. I'm not sure. Or if they were able to get luckier with the deck. So again, 3 Branded Despia, 2 Adventure decks. One of them was the Sound the Great version. We featured that a couple months ago, beginning of last format. Just kind of as something to put out there, just kind of theory to put out there. And then 1 Punk Eldritch, so this is probably a 60-card version as well. Again, 1 Tenyi Sword Soul, 1 Virtual World, and then again 1 Fluandrees. So the Fluandrees and Tenyi Sword Soul, I wouldn't say are the best decks, but they were definitely probably top 4, maybe even top 3 decks. I'd say, most likely Punk Adventure or Punk Therion is probably the best deck in the format, with Sword Soul and Fluandrees trailing right after. And I think, debates can happen afterwards on what the 4th and 5th best decks are, and there's nothing wrong with playing a 4th or 5th best deck, of course, because they could still do very well. Again, pure Eldritch in the Central American Nats, ended up winning the entire event. I wouldn't even say that that deck's probably maybe 8th or 9th place from what I would play in the current format, just the way it is. But you can always do well with these different decks. It's just interesting to see this kind of data. It's not often talked about in most channels. Next we have UK Nats. I know this had well over 1,000 players, I think. I think it had 1,100 or so players. So top 8, 4 Punk. So half of top 8, which is Punk decks, 2 Adventure, 1 Therion, and then the 1 Sun Avalon Therion. I know the Sun Avalon one we did feature a couple days ago, and it was just playing the 3 Telly, 1 Deer Note, 1 Xamin, and 1 Foxy Tune, just to get to Baron de Fleur as quickly as possible, summon out Fibrax, and then use something like any level 8 really, so probably Lily Borea, plus Necro Synchron to summon Baron de Fleur, and then that goes into the whole Sun Avalon combo. 1 Drytron, 1 Adventure PK, 1 Tri-Brigade Lyrilusk, and then 1 Therion ABC, just interesting decks too. Again, if your deck can play Therion or Adventure, it's probably doing well, and honestly, there's probably no reason to play another deck. So if your deck can accommodate Adventure and Therion, it's probably going to do well, unless it absolutely can't, for whatever reason, in engine. So Fluon Reese obviously can't. You just play Fluon Reese the way the deck's been built for 8 months at this point. Or Sword Soul Tiny, again, can't really play Adventure, can't really play Therion's currently, just how it is with that deck. But if your deck can play, one or the other, again, probably going to do pretty well. Then we have, let's see, the Adventure Phantom Knights. I think this deck's like okay at best. I don't know if I would put it in top 10. It's just not really worth considering because Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer was such a hard carry for the deck. It can still do things. Again, we still, I showed it off the other day playing Dragon Lake Adventure. One of the friends of the channel is playing that, sent us a replay. So it has neat techs. It just doesn't do much more compared to other decks. Its end board is probably stronger than basically every deck besides Punk Therion, but in that regard, it doesn't really convert well through hand traps at all. And then Tri-Brigade Lyrilusk, I know the player was on a small package. I think he was also playing the Adventure Engine, but I'm not positive. It's cool that this deck is still playable. Glad it's still playable because I like Tri-Brigade. I like the Lyrilusk cards as well because they're just absurd, but it is really hard to play this deck right now. I'm curious to see if we'll see this at the NAWCQ represented at least top 64, maybe even top 32. I guess we'll have to see soon. And then Therion ABC, I'm a little surprised actually to see that in top 8 for the UK Nats. Again, a lot of players, so the player must have been really good. This deck's really hard to play. Not because it's technically difficult, but it's just hard to play compared to every other deck. It has a much lower ceiling, but it is very fun to play. I will say it's not difficult to play, so I wouldn't really mind, myself having never liked ABC until now, playing this for 13 rounds. Same with like Sword Soul Tiny. It's just less mentally taxing, and that's probably better, even if it has a lower ceiling compared to some other decks. Now, I would also consider playing Punk Therion if I were playing in NAWCQ. Or any other events afterwards, case tournaments, if you guys have that. And finally, we have the Switzerland top 8. This was kind of the odd one out. I'm not actually sure how many people were in Switzerland playing, and actually, I'm not sure how many players there were. It may have been like a small North American regional size. It may have been, huge like UK or Germany. I'm just not sure. Number 1, the first 2. Of course, they were just 2 decks that we just don't have the data on. I'm not sure if they weren't released yet. People have been... It's really hard to get profiles in smaller European countries, and that's okay. Eventually may have, the information on the 2 other decks. But the other 2 decks, branded Predaplant Despia, which is really interesting. I actually like the Predaplant version more than just the Yellow Gas version, because it's been such a development in being able to play around certain hand traps like Ash Bossman Veiler. Easier to soak up those hand traps, though, again, higher ceiling, does not convert as well through hand traps. That's the trade-off. But curious to see that it wasn't any, regular branded Despia, or Sword Soul Tenyi, or Fluon Reese. And that's the case for UK Nats as well. Neither of those decks had any top 8 presence. I'm sure top 32 there were plenty. We can always take a look at that at another time, just kind of right before NAWCQ. Interesting to see. This was a way different kind of picture of the format, which is why it leads me to believe that there are fewer people in the Switzerland Nats. But the rest of them, let's see, Adventure Dragon Link, again, really cool deck to see at least. It's really fun to play as well. Just being able to combo through basically anything. 60 card Punk Adventure Eldritch, so there's the Punk representation. I don't know how many people actually played Punk throughout the entire tournament of the Switz Nats. Just curious to see what they would see, but I'm surprised they aren't playing the lower count, or that the lower count version of the deck did not convert into top 8. Also, one Salmon Grade. I'm going to assume this is without the adventure stuff. I just don't think this deck's great right now. Again, probably not even top 10. Simply because you have to see the right hand traps every single time to do exactly what they need to. So you need to see Token Collector every time your opponent has the Adventure Engine. If you don't see it when your opponent has the Adventure Engine, it's probably not doing well. It's really die roll with the hand traps. But if you do see them, you're probably fine, because it's really good at just controlling board presence. It's oppressive. It's deceptively oppressive when you have, Sunlight Wolf plus Gazelle in hand for the turn, Roar, Ash, and Salmon Great Rage. Really, really hard to beat. And then finally, Dinomorphia. Cool deck. I don't like the way it plays. I wouldn't play this myself, but interesting to see that did make top 8. Let me know what you guys think about all of these. I think, again, if I were to rank these, and this is just my opinion on which ones were, I think, the most representative of the format, I would probably say German Nationals was number 1, Central America number 2, UK Nats number 3, Italian Nats top 4, and then Switzerland Nats as 5th of the 5 nationals we have here. I think moving forward, we'll probably see, if I were to make any kind of predictions, top 32 of the NAWCQ, I could probably see at least 8 Punk versions, whether they be Adventure, Therion, anything like that, converting. Dragon Link, we will probably see at least 1 or 2 players. We'll probably see at least 4 to 8 Sword Sultani players. Probably at least 4 Fluanderies, I'd say, then maybe 1 or 2 Eldritch, 1 or 2 Striker, maybe Phantom Knights, and a couple Branded Despia decks as well. I think that's probably going to be the makeup. So I think the NAWCQ is going to have most likely the most normal, I would say, representation for decks. I guess we'll just have to see. We're going to theory some more with the team and kind of talk it out, have a discussion video for you guys before the NAWCQ actually happens. Again, most of the team's going to be there, those who are in the U.S. currently, and on the East Coast will be there. So we're excited to play in it, we're excited to judge in it, we're excited to just see everyone there and finally be back with a Nationals tournament in the U.S. It's been a while, of course, so let me know what you guys think about these Nationals. Again, we're going to have this available. We also are introducing a blog and tournament report for big events on OzoneTCG.com. If you guys want to check it out, of course, feel free to look at it. If you guys want to support us directly, you shop through the store. We always have Japanese imports, custom-made stuff through there, and soon we'll have those classical mats as well. I'm currently developing them. I'm just making sure they're sized correctly and they print out correctly on rubber play mats. Eventually we'll get them on cloth mats. But that's just so, I think they look really cool. Always wanted to have classical art on there. Let me know what you guys think about, again, these Nats, what you guys think about NAWCQ, what's going to come up there. We'll have a team discussion on this pretty soon, and otherwise we're just finalizing testing, getting everyone ready, and we have everything booked. We are ready to go for the NAWCQ, and as always, guys, thank you so much for watching.